Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? A little more than 24 hours away from round one of the NFL draft. The Saints will draft in the top 10 for the first time since they took Cedric Ellis back in the day. Will they go defensive line again? Kind of looks like it's leaning that way. Josh Edwards, CBS Sports draft analyst, good enough to jump board with us for a few minutes here. Hey, Josh, we appreciate you, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's crazy that we're just a little more than 24 hours at this point. But I think to come back to a point where we expect the Saints to take an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman just kind of feels right for this time of year.
You tweeted earlier today a few random thoughts this morning, and one of them was Mykel Williams would be such a Saints pick. New Orleans has used 8 of the last 10 first-round picks on an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. Why does Mykel Williams to the Saints make sense at 9?
I think it does. I don't know if it's their biggest need at this particular point in time, but it does make sense in the way that they have always wanted to build their roster. They believe in building through the trenches, so you have to have a strong offensive and defensive line. So if you have a player like Mykel Williams, who's still relatively young, I think his best football is still ahead of him. He was playing at a very high level when he was healthy and available. Coming into the year, he was considered one of the best prospects in this draft class, a potential top, number 1 overall pick. Obviously did not materialize that way, but a young player with a really high floor as a run defender that, could still potentially grow and become a more impactful pass rusher.
Give me a little more analysis on Williams, the player, and how and why he may fit where he does. Why is this guy who maybe the productivity wasn't quite there? Why is he still someone that we're talking about at 9 overall?
Yeah, the productivity wasn't there because he did battle some injuries this year, which cost him some time, but it also meant that he played through those injuries. So I think you got a little bit of a vision into how he views the game of football. I think he's somebody that values the sport. I think he has a passion for the sport. So he kind of checks that intangible box in that way. But at the same time, he's got that prototypical size. He's 6'5", however much he weighed in at the NFL Combine, but just an incredibly thick player that, again, is young. He's somebody that's going to be able to set the edge for you on defense. He's somebody that I think is not the most bendy player, but he is powerful. He's got multiple ways that he can win at the point of attack. So if he continues developing into his body and becomes a more fluid pass rusher, develops more of a pass rush plan, I think you can see him have a similar level of production as what we had seen from Trayvon Walker this past season. And that's kind of what we had seen from these Georgia Bulldogs over the past couple of years. They're not the most impactful pass rushers because it's a unit. They apply pressure as a unit. They do a lot of stunts. They do a lot of games. It's creating opportunities for one another. So now being in New Orleans, where he's somebody that, may create opportunities for himself, I think there's a chance for him to see even higher level of production.
Now, I was reading a piece over at CBSSports.com today, and tell me if I'm wrong, but reading this where you projected still, it was where Shedeur Sanders would end up, and you still have him number 9 overall to the Saints. You said if not to New Orleans, it gets more difficult to project. It's unknown even if he's the Steelers' quarterback of choice. Do you still feel today, even though all the odds have shifted heavily toward the Saints taking a defensive lineman, do you still feel today that Shedeur is where New Orleans is where Shedeur lands?
No, and for the longest time, I thought it made sense because with Derek Carr's situation, they did not have a ready-made quarterback option for this upcoming season. So in a way, to me, it felt like they were preparing fans for the possibility of taking Shedeur. But as time has passed, gaining more information, hearing from people in the local market, I don't think that that's the most likely outcome at this point. I would be surprised, in fact, if they did take Sanders, which I think in a way is water finding its level, because throughout this process, I've kind of viewed him as like the 20th best player in this draft class. I don't have a first-round grade on him. But in this year's class, where you only have a handful of those blue-chip, all-pro type talents, he's still going to be taken probably in the first 32 picks. So even though he doesn't personally have a first-round grade for me because it is a premium position. I think it is likely that he goes Thursday night, whether that's the Steelers or a team trades back up into the back end of the first round, potentially the Saints. You can't even rule that out. So I think that's where it becomes more of a possibility at this point.
That would be interesting. By the way, I'm just looking at DraftKings right now. They got Mykel Williams plus 270 favorite to go number 9 to the Saints. Shedeur Sanders all the way at plus 1,200. As a matter of fact, Jaxson Dart has better odds to go to the Saints at 9 than Shedeur does. Where do you fall on Jaxson Dart?
Well, it's kind of a microcosm of the entire quarterback group. Each of them kind of carries their own red flag. And for Jaxson Dart, the intangibles are off the charts. Everybody that has spoken to the kid comes away with a great impression of him. His teammates, his coaches seem to love him. So he's going to have that leadership quality that you look for. At the same time, he comes from this Lane Kiffin offense where it's not a full field read. You know, a lot of times the field is cut in half and he's looking at one side of the field. Now that he's going to be in the NFL, he's going to be working through his progressions. It's just going to be a little bit different. He's going to have to work on his timing, his pacing a little bit, and his dropbacks. So it's more of a timing game in the NFL, and I don't necessarily think that we've seen that from him to this point. I am encouraged that he has the size that you kind of look for at the position. He has good mobility for the quarterback position. He's an accurate passer. I'm not going to take that away from him. So it's just a matter of how quickly he's able to consume this NFL offense, this traditional drop back passing style that we're accustomed to seeing in the league, and just how well he takes to that.
Josh Edwards is with us, CBS Sports Draft Analyst. You get him on Twitter at Edwards CBS. The report earlier this week, Josh, was that the Saints are likely to go defensive line at 9, but their second round pick, number 40, they're making calls to move up, presumably to take a quarterback. So what do you think would be a best case scenario for New Orleans if they were able to move up from 40? What player would be there in a best case scenario for New Orleans?
Yeah, and I think best case scenario it would be Shedeur Sanders, because I think he is, if you're looking at the Venn diagram, it's the middle section there is capable of playing now, but still has some upside at the position. Jaxson Dart, I don't think he's going to be ready to start from day one. And if Derek Carr is not your starting quarterback week one, are you more comfortable with the rookie that you bring in, or Jake Haener or Spencer Rattler? I would like to think that the quarterback they bring in on day 2 or late round 1 is ultimately going to win that battle. And to me, that says that he has to have some level of ready to play now. So if it's not Sanders, do you throw Dart in there and just kind of allow him to learn from his own mistakes as time passes? That's going to be frustrating, but potentially beneficial in the long run. The other player that I think is ready-made to play now would be Tyler Shuck from Louisville. He's somebody that's a little bit of an older prospect. I still struggle with his downfield accuracy at times. He struggles with pressure at his feet, which could be a byproduct of the fact that he's missed a lot of time in his collegiate career because of injuries. So if you're looking for a player to start week 1, which I tend to think that the Saints are probably in that frame of mind, because this is not an organization that has traditionally looked at themselves as being in a rebuild, I would think that Sanders and Shuck may be the best suited to do that.
Josh, if the Saints are a team that the roster is a mess, and quite honestly, they need help everywhere. But we've talked a lot about, notably, quarterback, defensive line, like what they might do at 9. It seems apparently they will do. But we've had a lot of conversation about getting a big-bodied pass catcher, be it a tight end or a bigger receiver. When I look at the Saints draft capital, after 9 and 40, they're next on the board at 71. So they got 2 threes, 71 and 93 overall. If they're looking for a big-bodied pass catcher there, give me someone on your board that you think would make sense to New Orleans that would be available there early round 3.
I think there's some good options that could potentially be available there. And I'm immediately drawn to Jalen Royals from Utah State and Alec A. Manor from Stanford. 2 bigger body guys that can win down the field for you. I think Iowa State's Jaden Higgins will probably be gone at that point. You've also got Torrey Horton from Colorado State, So there's going to be some options there potentially for the Saints with those third-round picks to get a little bit of size at the position. I still think, even with all the wind with Mykel Williams there at number 9 overall, I still wonder if Ted McMillan from Arizona might still be under consideration. I don't know if I tweeted this out or not, but I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the level of certainty that people are speaking with in certain positions right now, because I don't think this is a draft where you can speak with certainty. I think all these big boards are going to vary team by team, and there's going to be a lot of volatility. So I wouldn't put Mykel Williams in ink just yet. But if they do not address the wide receiver in the first 2 rounds, those would be a few names that came to mind for me on round 3.
Before you go, one bold move in round 1. What do you think might be lurking on Thursday? Saints or otherwise, anybody?
Yeah, good question. I know there's a team. There's a couple of teams that want to take a big swing in this draft class. For example, I think the Jaguars want to move up and make a big splash, but I don't think that's going to be possible. So I'm going to say if Ashton Jeanty falls a little bit, the Broncos will trade up to get him. Okay. Otherwise, I don't think they'll have to trade up for Amarian Hampton, the running back from North Carolina. So if for whatever reason the Jaguars and the Raiders pass on Jeanty, then you look at the Saints, they're at number 9 overall, just ahead of the Bears, who would likely take Jeanty as a potential landing spot for the Broncos to come up and get their running back.
Yes, please. Go get Ashton Jeanty far away from New Orleans. Oh, my God. If they take a running back at 9 overall, God help us. Josh Edwards, at Edwards CBS on Twitter. Give him a follow. Great stuff, man. Thank you so much for a few minutes on a busy day.
Of course, anytime.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.